All right, so we should be live. Let me just double check. Refresh. All right, so Mr. Nehad ElSherif, we are going to continue our discussion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Restream over here. Where is my web browser? I got a new power supply in today.
Are we live yet? Let me check.
Yep, we're live.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to get up chat. There we go. All right. So that way, if I see chatting going on, I'll be able to recognize it. We have a good stream. Okay. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close that. All right. So are we ready to continue? Where we left off.
I think we are.
Yeah. So here's you know what I did? I put a link in up here when we were trying to find the reference to the CDC.
Yeah.
I found a let me just do this. Let me get this. I think I found it's a blog that mentions it from the CDC from March 3rd. Loud noises, and if you I have issues with this site because this hearing loss website from the CDC is it's not active anymore. But it says right here, sound is measured in decibels. And it says loud noise above 120 dB, even for a short period of time, can cause immediate harm. So they do have this on their website, but this is the only place is their blog. And what I was thinking is it would be good if we could triangulate and find a couple different references. So then we would be able to say the CDC and X and Y and Z are saying similar things, right? That way, at least you have a few references, at least two. In my opinion, I don't know if there's any rules. But if I could say there's like two references that have similar numbers, then I think it would be good for paper material.
So here's the thing. I did more research, and I'm going to start rewriting this whole section because I have more information along the lines of what you're saying. But I can't share anything in the chat with you because I'm getting an error that you can send messages because you are not a member of the chat. I don't know what this means, but it's not. I was going to send you a link. I found a very interesting paper from the National Institute of Deaf and Special Needs or something. I can give you it's noise hearing. It's called the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders.
You said it was called National Institute of what?
Deafness and Other Communication Disorders. I'm not sure I can send a chat message.
I don't know.
This is weird.
Yeah, I haven't done anything different from setting it up. So that's the NIDCD.
Cool. Yep. Cool. And apparently this is the origin of this whole thing. And I found a PDF, like the website. You can print it as a PDF, and it's a very nice PDF, which I can email to you now if you want. It has a lot of information. And I did learn something very interesting. I'm going to change this whole table 1. Apparently, Tom, they have what they call A-weighted decibels, which is dBA, which is not just our decibels. And I didn't know what it is, but I did some brief research on it. Apparently, my quick understanding, this is the website I found. This means that they try to simulate what the ear hears. So it's a component of the sound level, not just the sound level measured in decibels, it's the sound level at which frequency. Because our ears are sensitive to both, not just the sound level, the frequency itself. So apparently what really matters is the dBA. and I can turn this into a table. If you're just scrolling down, like we have some ranges, I can turn it into a table, and this will be more accurate than the number that we have. Because it has a range, it's like normal conversation, whatever, and I would add an explanation to this dBA, like A-weighted decibel. And this is again the 70. This is where the 70 number came from, because I kept tracking all the sources until I landed on this page. So apparently this is the 70 decibel, but it's not decibel. It's the dBA, which is a bit different. And I did some other readings, and they said that 70 decibel is not 70 dBA. They're not the same.
You know what? I had found that same site. I'm just calling up my presentation because when I was looking through their
And if you go up and you print the PDF, it's very nice. It's very late. This is the one I wanted to email you. It's they have it laid down very nice. Just scroll up all the way.
So watch this. Watch this. So this was my.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This was my presentation. And I think I was hearing loss fact sheet. And if you scroll down, look. I
know. You found the same website, but you forgot to add a reference to it.
And so what I did was I went through in this presentation. Day keeps wanting to go there. So in this presentation, I had 30 dB, and then 85, and then I just kept going higher, and there's my 165. So I keep trying to figure out a way. But I talk about the outer ear, and I talk about the inner ear, the auditory nerve, the vibrations. But I learned all of that from that website. That speaks.
I didn't need the whole thing, but it's very detailed. But this is really, really good material not for the paper, right?
Right. Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. If you're trying to understand arc flash and the hazards associated with it, hearing is a very important aspect of it. But the problem is when we teach about arc flash and whatnot, we basically just talk about it in a way. And we gloss over it. We just say where your earplugs and we move on. But you really don't get to understand all these little details.
Because I think I agree with you, because we don't get into the medical side of things. We just talk about from an engineering standpoint. So like I said, it'll be a very good material to explain this from a more engineering perspective, referencing medical information in the text, right? And not in this paper, because we don't have enough.
And these videos here were very important because when we talk about using earplugs, this was a medical reference and a video that's available that shows you exactly how to insert and use these formable earplugs and pre-molded earplugs, right? So what this is like that separate reference that is made by individuals who know all about hearing protection, and they give you that guidance. So,
and I like this website. I'm glad that you found the same information. I guess you did this a while back before me. I just did this yesterday. After our discussion, I guess last night. And I believe this website is the origin, or this organization, CIDC, whatever it's called, they are the origin of the information, because all the other stuff is coming from them. So I'm in the process of rewriting this whole section. So I will keep the red stuff, but I don't have them yet, because I guess you send me this file when we're done. I will keep the red stuff that you added, right? And then rewrite the whole section to talk about, hey, this is the origin of the 70 decibel, and this is why OSHA requires 85, because 70 is the borderline of non-harmful sounds. But I would have to explain the decibel, the A-weighted decibel versus decibel, because I did not even know that this thing existed. Apparently they have something called C-weighted decibel as well, but they said it's not used very often. They use it for other application, which I can't remember what it is. But what I found out that apparently the A-weighted decibel is the one that is used, the measurement that's used most often And someone even said you can transfer them using equations, which is weird. It's like you have to buy a meter, and apparently they sell meters that are A-weighted decibels.
Yeah.
So it's not just because I was looking for equations. What's the relationship between both of them? And then someone said you just buy a meter. I was like, I'm sure there's an equation somewhere.
But there is a reference to a meter that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
And there is like apps. They talked about apps, and you can get an app and a whole bunch of other things.
There it is. Decimal meters. And here's the decimal meters on the way to measure potential hazard.
Sound level
meter smartphone app. So I in fact there was a feature of my iPhone.
I went like this.
Right here. My iPhone. When I bought a new iPhone. You know how you have these Apple Pods or whatever these things are, right?
AirPods,
AirPods, and it will give you a report, and it'll tell you
things
are too loud
for your hearing.
So it measures the decibels, and there's an app on the phone that will do that for you
to help you
understand your hearing
health.
But that's another interesting.
My phone. I have Pixel phone on Android, and my Pixel buds always tell me that it's too loud, but I ignore them.
Yeah.
So it's telling me, hey, this is too loud. So well, whatever.
It's a level of risk you're willing to accept. Right?
I guess, because I need to hear what especially when I'm traveling where it's noisy. I need to hear what's going on. I know it's too loud, but I can hear. It's noisy. I do the noise cancellations, but sometimes I turn it to transparency mode. So if I'm on the plane, at least I can hear if someone is talking to me or flight attendant or they have an announcement. That makes sense now. Yeah. So, and I like this. It's brief, 60 to 70, 80 to 100. I can turn this into a table instead of the big table we have. Because this makes more sense because now we can talk about the weighted decibel and how it's different and includes frequency. And then the table will be, these are the ranges and this is the credible source. Because it's funny, the other sources that we were looking at yesterday and I guess last week on Friday, they all talk about decibel, but they have the same number. So I think the authors chose to ignore. Because if you look at our table, it's in decibel, but the numbers should be in A-weighted decibel.
Okay.
And that's what's and then the time is another aspect in this website which I can include because they were talking about the time and how the longer it is, the longer time you're exposed to those high A-weighted decibel levels, the more damage it would infect in you. Just include the time component as well.
Sometimes we use different versions of decibels. A weighted decibel or a dBA are often used when describing sound level recommendations for
listening.
While the dB scale
is based only on sound intensity.
The dBA scale is based on intensity
and how the human ear responds. And that's probably why there's the math equation's not there. Because my understanding, they just tried to simulate an ear. And I read it somewhere else that it includes frequency as well. Somehow this dBA includes frequency, not just the sound, which makes sense because our ears, and they talk about the frequency range that we can hear. I think it's 20, like 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz or something. No, it's like 20 something. I think it's 20 to 20 kilohertz, something like that. So. I found it somewhere. I should be able to find it again.
All right, that's perfect. Well, at least we got that one, and we have a good reference for it, and we can just basically take a different approach to it. I like that.
And then it would be much bigger than that. It'd be like much longer than this, but at least it would have more solid. Scientifically, I guess, referenced information from the medical field.
Perfect.
And then we don't have to have this big table because I was worried about this table. It's just a little bit confusing because it's just like too many details and numbers. So I like the range stuff.
Hold on. They're saying I have an echo. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It says for me. It says for me only. Hold on. Hold on. I can.
Oh, hey, Robert. Kawasaki, I believe. How are you guys doing? Sorry, not sure about the echo thing. Tom has been having problems.
So I am echoing. You know, I'll solve that. I'll bet. So, Robert and Kawasaki, am I echoing now? Right now, because I muted the ATEM, and I'm curious if I'm echoing, and I think that would solve that problem, but please let me know. Now I'm not. Okay, microphone, hold on. But nobody can hear you, so I've muted you. Gotta figure out how I'm gonna do that. No, I mean, I did this yesterday and it worked perfectly fine. And I have my microphone turned off over here, but it's probably hearing me through this microphone. Let me turn this microphone off. And I turned that. Now I'm hearing myself. Give me 1 second here. Man, I hate this. I unmuted you so you can hear me. So I'm going to do this. Advanced property.
I can hear you.
Yeah. I need to turn off this audio. Audio settings. Boom. There we go. Let me do that. And let me come back to this. And see if... Okay. So, go ahead and say something, Nehad.
Hey, good morning. I guess Robert from Omaha.
No,
good to see you. Can you hear me?
Oh my gosh.
You guys hear me?
Oh, I know why. Let me monitor this. Advanced properties, ATEM, monitor and output closed. Now I can hear you, right, Nehad?
Yeah, apparently it's working now, so that's good.
Okay, that works better now. All right, let's, I'm going to go back to this. There we go. We should be good now. I figured it out.
All right.
Sorry about that. Okay, so that works fine. All right, so let's go back down to...
So I guess the next section that we need to give more attention to is...
Right here. Yeah. So I want to, before we go there,
Good.
I want to, before we go, so is that before or after hierarchy of risk?
That was before.
Oh, thermal.
Yeah,
okay.
So this is the section that, the next one that you and I need to look into, because we're missing references and, the hot water and all this stuff, right? The thermal, the first degree, second degree burns. That's the one right after the sound. So scroll down, follow page. Yes, right after the table, thermal burn hazard.
Okay, what do you want to change?
We need references, right? We talked about the references, and we need to get some credible references.
Do you have any? Is there anything I need to change?
I still have to look.
Okay, so that's no change from yesterday.
No,
because we talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, so it's like the next thing that we need some attention to. We have two references, but I don't know how good they are yet.
Tell me when you're ready to move on to anything new, or if you need to re-talk about stuff we talked about yesterday. Let me know.
No, we can move to the next one. I think we're ready. Just want to let you know that this is the next section that needs our attention to fix the references and the information. But yeah, everything else should be good for now. So you can move on.
Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, so we were talking about this yesterday. Remember, we had the discussion about the in general. Okay, so what I just started this morning, and Here's my thoughts are that when we start talking about, when we get into the details of elimination and substitution and engineering controls, I want to focus it on the electrical, because that's what we're focused on from this paper's perspective. So we drilled down that it's in general what a hierarchy of risk control is. Now we're getting into each of the details. And elimination was the first one. So when I started reading this morning, I didn't think hazardous material was electrical. So what I was going to try to do is give examples of elimination that are electrical in nature.
We have two different approaches here. I wanted to use general information to explain the concept, not specifically electrical. In general, I didn't focus on electrical. That's why I didn't mention electric hazard, like you added electrical, just because it's any hazard, just to give the reader some examples in general terms. It doesn't have to be electrical. We can just do electrical, just like we talked about risk. We talked about airline industry and like driving, doing stuff not electrical, but just to convey the concept. I'm trying to look for. I know it's somewhere. In 7E, you can find it. I remember the definitions of like elimination, substitution, they're in general terms. I know I saw them somewhere. Yeah, this was my idea, to just talk about general stuff, and then the table talks about specific electrical examples.
Oh, so where's our, so establish electrically safe work condition, de-energized work, battery operated tools, safety by design. Okay.
So the table talks about the electrical stuff, but
I'm wondering though if we need to, from an elimination perspective, I understood why we went down the road from risk perspective, but in these, in my opinion, if we start like hazardous materials, it doesn't help. It's hazardous material. I don't know what that means. Are we talking chemicals?
Chemical, yeah. And the thing is too, don't forget we're assuming that the reader will be electrical, but what if someone is reading this paper or the textbook, hopefully in the future, might be a safety person, that they deal with chemical hazards, they deal with other hazards. It's all safety stuff, not just specifically electrical in nature, So I'm trying to kind of cover both worlds. Yes, with electrical.
I can buy that. Yeah, buy that.
Yes, with electrical, but I'm giving other examples, mechanical examples, like replacing a diesel generator with a, something more electrical motor or something, or old electrical generator. Right. Yeah. So this was the whole idea that I used. To just talk about general terms, but we're focusing electrical in the table. And I know this will be a big discussion. Hopefully Robert and Kawasaki, whoever online, can help us, because you and I had some interesting discussion about which method is which. Would lockout, tagout be elimination or administrative controls? Remember?
But yeah, and that has nothing to do with this paragraph, because what we're saying here is not electrical. That was my issue. But I get where you're coming from, to say let's not talk electrical here, and just
because to this column, discussion on hierarchy of risk control. Sorry, there is a discussion on hierarchy of risk control which I haven't started yet, but this is, I think, it'll be a good place to talk about all the electrical stuff that we need and which method is which, and the complex tagout.
So I'm confused.
Lockout, tagout stuff.
Now I'm confused. So you said this is a good place to talk electrical, but I thought you just said you did not want to focus on electrical.
You missed one sentence. I said, to the right, there is something called a highlighted discussion on hierarchy of risk control, which is something I haven't started yet. This, I think, we can discuss.
So let's focus on
everything.
I got you. Let's focus on,
and then get into
I get you. Let's just focus on this paragraph first, before we start talking about other stuff. All right. That way, because otherwise we're not going to get into language in here. So removing hazards from the workplace to ensure that they do not exist. It's not that they no longer exist, because when you say no longer exist, implies that they existed in the first place. So what you want to do is remove the hazard from the design. So it doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm okay with wordsmithing. Yeah, that's fine with that. I'm fine with that.
All right, I'm just going to do no markups. So this is the preferred risk control method as it is most effective. Elimination should be used whenever possible. How about effective and should be used whenever possible. Banning examples. So
it's at the end of the sentence, Tom. I started this as like our few examples, so you can do either way.
I'd like to lead it just so people know what you're talking about in the beginning. Examples of elimination could include, but not limited to. When we say banning, hazardous materials such as possibly, so is it mitigated? Not sure if I'm mitigated. Examples of elimination could include, but are not limited to. When we say,
yeah, I don't know what's another word for ban. It's just like preventing the use of. It's not banning. I thought it was I don't know. Let's see what our friends think.
How about instead of saying hazardous, why don't we focus on like for example, we said less noisy. So instead of saying less noisy, because that's very subjective. I don't know what that means, but we could say on the positive, using equipment that is below so many decibels, which we already said up above. What's the lowest decibel?
So
using oh no. How about this? How about we say, where's it at? Where is it? It's down below that triangle.
I'm not sure what you're looking for.
The text we were just editing. What page is that on? Engineering substitution, hierarchy of risk.
Are you talking about the sound? So I have to go up.
Oh, no. You know what I was looking for? I was looking for the track changes, and I turned it off. It was right here, right? What if we said examples of eliminations include using equipment. I'm just going to change this. Using equipment with sound levels less than 85 dB, which it was at 85 dB was the OSHA cutoff, right?
Yeah, 85. 85 is OSHA. 70 is the I guess the safe. Above 70 is considered harmful. But
was it 70 then? So then less than 70 dB.
Yeah, so 70 is the limit of harmful versus non-harmful, and then
so
85
70 would
was
be
OSHA.
the right one. So 70 would be the right one.
Yeah, DBA, right?
I don't know. Is that DBA up there?
Yes.
Hold on.
This is the.
Okay. So banning hazardous material using could include, but are not limited to. I'm having problems with this. I'm just going to do a Control X. Using equipment with sound levels less than 70 dBA. That's a very positive statement, and you're avoiding the sound level which you've already educated on with regard to what that limit is for harmful. Should say include instead of could include. Ooh, this preferred risk control methods effective and should be used when examples of elimination include. Ooh, very good, but are not limited to using equipment with sound levels less than dBA. Performing work at ground level. I like that. But an elimination, a hazard elimination, how would you...
Yeah, we talked about this the other day.
So what's a positive way to say that? You're installing equipment. You're installing equipment that needs to be... installing equipment, what would you say? I think what we're trying to say is we wouldn't install equipment above ground level. You'd want to design the system Oh, how about examples to specifying / using / using equipment with sound levels less than 70 dBA, designing solutions that can be, what do you say, worked on or serviced. Ooh, serviced.
I like serviced. I like serviced.
Yeah.
At ground level.
Without use of ladders,
I guess,
or other related equipment, or can be serviced. Yeah. So ground level. I don't know. I guess
without the use of ladder, I guess, without the use of ladders or other equipment.
Without the use of ladders or other related equipment. So I'm trying to think of how do we. So examples of elimination include, but not limited to, specifying / using equipment with sound levels less than 70 dBA, designing solutions that can be serviced without the use of ladders or other related equipment.
So Robert is suggesting hazard-free in the chat, but I don't know if there's anything that we can call hazard-free. I don't know. Do you think we can call anything hazard-free? Hazard-free? There's always a hazard somehow, somewhere hiding.
So the challenge here is, and that's his point. So his comment. His comment is interesting because I can honestly say that we're removing individual hazards, right? So I can specify equipment that has dBA of less than 70, but if it's going from a 24-volt DC application to a 480-volt application, I've just created another problem. I've created a shock hazard. Hazard elimination. Yeah. Hazard elimination, the thing we have to be careful of. And his hazard-free comment is more holistic. What we're doing here is we're saying these are, you know what? So here's what I'm thinking, Nehad. I'm not sure how to write this, but I'll tell you where my thoughts are. We are talking about so we're talking about elimination of all hazards, or are we talking about elimination of specific hazards, which is why I went down the electrical road to begin with, right? And now I get why I migrated there. It's because I'm not sure. Because I'm trying to explain. I just got to collect my thoughts before I just blurt them out, because I'm trying to organize my thoughts. So we mentioned less than 70 dBA. That is one hazard, which is sound. I could specify equipment less than 70 dBA, and it's all installed on the 3rd story, and you need ladders to get to it, and you can't use any other lift. So I have solved only one hazard. I haven't eliminated any. I've only eliminated one hazard. I haven't eliminated hazards, and I think that's where Robert is going.
If I'm not mistaken, when we do this exercise, remember we talked about hazard task pairs. So you do it per hazard. So when you are eliminating, let's say in this case, the sound, excessive sound or noise that may inflict hearing damage, you're only focused on this hazard, right? It might create something else, but I think this is part of the risk assessment process, right? Because you try to eliminate it. You can't eliminate everything at the same time. I mean, there's no one size fits it all kind of deal. So
somehow we have to say that. somehow we have to say that we're going to mention a few hazards that we're eliminating that have nothing to do with electrical, but you're not eliminating all hazards. Now, is it possible to eliminate all hazards? Because all hazards means trip, it means falls, it means cuts, bruises, right? There are so many different hazards on a job site that when we say hazard elimination, you have to have the mindset that we are eliminating individual hazards. But we're not eliminating all hazards.
Everything. And you know, Tom, I think this goes back to what we discussed previously with risk acceptance, because no matter what we do, we have to accept some level of risk, right? So, and I think this is where it gets interesting that, yes, we are eliminating maybe hazard A, B, C, but maybe hazard D we can live with because it's part of, nothing like this is kind of the comment I made. I don't think we can end up having a risk-free workplace or anything risk-free. There's always risk. Like air travel we talked about, there's still a risk. It's very limited, very small, to the point that we can even put numbers, to it. But when it happens, it's catastrophic. It's just part of what we have to live with. When you jump on a plane, every time you're accepting the level of risk that something bad could happen. Turbulence, like I'm sure you read about the turbulence stuff that was happening recently. It's kind of crazy. People getting injured and even killed because of turbulence. I've been through turbulence before, but fortunately nothing bad happened. But I'm sure you've experienced them before. So I guess to me, it's part of the risk acceptance exercise that yes, we're maybe eliminating the first 1 or 2 or 3 hazards because they're more harmful. But then there's another hazard that maybe you have to live with. Maybe elimination would be the good. And this, I mentioned this in the text too. Oftentimes you can use one method. You'd have to use a combination of methods. So it could be elimination for those group of hazards and then substitution for the other one, or engineering controls, or wearing PPE or something,
Yeah. So what I got to figure out, what I think we haven't conveyed the fact that you're not removing all hazards.
And Robert is agreeing with us that you can never eliminate all the hazards. That's what Robert is saying. Yeah, when voltage is removed, it's hazard free from voltage, but then you can't do anything. If you're doing what do you call it, like troubleshooting, if you lose your voltage, then you can't troubleshoot anything,
Just trying to figure out how do we say, so removing hazards from the workplace to ensure that they do not exist. This is the preferred risk control method as is most effective and should be used whenever possible. So we know that. So now, hazard elimination. Hazard elimination is, in the process of hazard elimination, it's important to understand that a job site has many different hazards involved. Elimination is focused on a hazard by hazard basis and may not result in removing all of the hazards involved.
Right.
Right. I think that's what we were just saying, is that there are a lot of different hazards on a job site, and how do we say this? In the process of hazard, it is important to understand that the job site has many different hazards involved. In other words, trip hazards, right? Cut and abrasion.
Fall hazards, electrical hazards, chemical.
Electrical hazards, chemical.
I guess trip and fall. Did you say trip? You said trip at the beginning.
Yeah. I'll say trip and fall.
cut and abrasion. Abrasion, yeah.
1B? Yeah, abrasion hazards.
Currently it's 1B, yep.
I.e., hazards could include trip and fall, cut and abrasion, electrical, chemical, and more. Right, so so elimination, hazard elimination is often focused on a specific, on a hazard, focused on a hazard by hazard basis, and may not.
Should we say focused or applied or performed? Because I don't know if focused is the right word. Maybe performed or conducted, used, I don't know.
We can think about a better word. On a hazard by hazard basis and may not result in removing all of the hazards involved. Examples of hazard elimination: trying to identify, acknowledge, and do what you can to reduce those hazards. At least you have acknowledged them. Yeah, there may be things you recognize, acknowledge. Yep. Examples of hazard elimination include, examples of hazard elimination include, but are not limited to, specifying to eliminating hearing hazards, hearing loss hazards, right? Through specifying / using equipment with sound levels less than 70 dBA. An example.
Tom, I think it's getting too wordy now, because I mean, when you say sound levels less than 70 decibel or dBA, it's understandable that it's like eliminating the noise hazard or hearing loss hazard. I don't know. It's just the sentence is getting too long.
1. But not limited to.
Do we need but not limited to? Isn't it implied that obviously include just a few examples? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. We can always wordsmith it later. Eliminating hearing loss hazards through specifying using equipment with sound levels less than 70 dBA. So that's one example. Designing solutions that can be serviced without. So what is this? Eliminating fall hazards through system designs, through solutions, through implementing solutions that can be serviced without the use of ladders or other related equipment. Right?
Oh, okay. It's the number system. That's good.
What else?
I guess somehow the numbering get all messed up.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know what? Just if you just leave the order, yeah, I can do it. Okay, we just focus on, I guess,
hazards through specifying. So eliminating fall hazards through implementing solutions that can be serviced without the use of ladders or other equipment. So that's your fall hazard. That's your hearing loss hazard. Right.
And then if we talk about chemical, since we mentioned chemical, this would be the, I guess, I know you didn't like ban, but I can't think of any better word, like just banning or preventing the use or stopping the use of hazardous material.
Through, it's not banning. I mean, so it would be you're basically designing or what What are you doing? You're
preventing the use of hazardous chemical, hazardous material, whatever.
prohibiting the use of
prohibiting is better.
hazardous chemicals. So what I was trying to say is, it's one thing to say, I'm going to prohibit the use of or I'm going to design something and not use hazardous chemicals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I could elect a process that does not use hazardous chemicals and uses safe chemicals. That, I think, is more of a design, because we're talking about design solutions.
Yeah. So there's the question, Tom. Is it only chemical burn? Because the damage could be your lungs, right? Is it only burn? I'm just thinking eliminate chemical burns or just chemical hazards in general.
It's still
I'm not sure. I'm just asking. I don't know. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
I'm trying to answer. So and in my opinion, it's still a chemical burn. Even if you inhale it and you damage your lungs, it's still a chemical burn. But it's a like chemical
inhaling
burn.
Chemical. Sometimes you just like.
All right.
I think the connection is. Can you hear me well? I'm getting messages that my connection is poor.
I can hear you very well. I might be delayed in getting to you. That's why you're talking over me. So
keeps telling me that my connection is poor, so I wasn't sure if you can even hear me.
I'm talking, and then all of a sudden you start talking. So it's like we're having that crosstalk thing. So it's probably because you don't realize that I'm not finished, and it's delayed, and then all of a sudden I just hear you talk. But that's okay. Well, it's probably just a connection issue. All right. So we gave 3 examples. So we got eliminating hearing loss, eliminating fall hazards, and eliminating chemical burn hazards. I like that.
So I guess, sorry, I missed the other conversation because my connection was poor. So are you okay with chemical burn or just chemical hazards in general, like inhaling something or it just affects your lung but doesn't burn it? I don't know. I'm wondering.
Yeah, I like burn because it's specific. Now, could there be other hazards associated with the chemical that you're alleviating? Nature. But I don't know that. I think by saying eliminating a chemical burn, and the reader could say, "Oh yeah, there's other issues with chemicals as well." But I don't know that we need to get into all those details. But we're specifically identifying a hazard. Fair. You know, like that's hearing fair. Loss is one hazard for DBA. Falls is one hazard. And it's not the fall that gets you, it's the abrupt stop at the end, right? So we don't even mention that. All right. All right, so we're good with elimination. I like that rework. I feel better with it. You good?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's much better. Yeah. I just have to work on some of the edits, but this will be something I'll do offline.
Substitution is next. Replacing higher risk hazards, if you can't eliminate them, with hazards that are. Is it less
know it's not hazardous? Very specific, but I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know how to say it. Just something, you're substituting a hazard with something that's not as hazardous. I didn't know how to say it.
Remember, so replacing higher risk hazards, because you're focusing on the hazard. It's not less. What you're doing is you're managing risk. You're substituting, because you may not be substituting with something that is. So how about this? Replacing higher risk hazards, if you cannot eliminate it, with other hazards, with lower risk solutions. Right? So it's not that you're replacing it with another hazard, because you could replace it with, you're just replacing it with something that is lower risk. It may have a higher, it may have less likelihood, but a greater impact. You know what I'm saying? Severity. So you have effectively lowered the risk by managing the likelihood and not the severity. a good example of that is the transformer secondary issue. So replacing a higher risk hazards with lower risk solutions. It's paramount to make sure that the replacement hazard, you're not replacing it with a hazard.
So I know where I got this wording from. It was OSHA that said this. There's a document that I think you have it, or I shared it with you. This is how they described it. So I use the same approach, replacing hazard with another hazard that's not as hazardous. That's how I got it.
Replacing, so substitute, like for example, here's an example. I could substitute incandescent bulbs that have to be replaced monthly with LED bulbs that have to be replaced every 5 years. I've reduced the risk because I have not changed the fact that I have to get up on a ladder and change the light bulb, but I have reduced the risk because I've substituted an incandescent bulb with an LED bulb, which reduced the risk because I only have to do it once every 5 years. Instead of every month, I have to subject somebody to the situation. So I have not basically reduced the hazard of fall because it's still there, but I've reduced the likelihood. Or I've reduced the likelihood, because if you say one fall in every 100 times you get on a ladder, and I have to replace it daily. So within 100 days, I'm going to have a fall. But if I replace it every 5 years, now within 100 years, I'm going to have a fall. Do you see what I mean? I've substituted one design with something else. So it's not that I'm replacing hazards. I'm replacing a risk. I'm addressing the risk by substituting a product or substituting a design.
I understand what you're saying, but from their perspective, which it's not neither right or wrong, they're saying that, let's say you're replacing the activity of getting on a ladder with something different, another activity that still has some hazard built into it, right? This is back to your point of likelihood reduction of the risk. Right. So I guess from their perspective, you have one hazard that is maybe not acceptable in terms of its risk, and you're replacing it with something that has lower risk because of the lower likelihood, which means it's still a new hazard, but it's not as hazardous as the previous one. Just no.
It depends on
that's how they were trying to explain it.
Yeah, and it depends on how you define hazardous. I think the approach that we're taking is we're managing risk. And I can substitute one product with another and not eliminate risk, right? So,
and I like what you added, applying high risk hazard with maybe a hazard that is lower risk. I like this, maybe with lower risk hazard instead of solutions. So to be consistent with the first sentence. So now I think this is better, explains it better. But this is how I understood substitution. You're replacing something with higher risk hazard to a lower risk. And it could be likelihood or even severity, maybe, whatever the substitution, how it works, whichever you're affecting or addressing the risk components, yeah. One or both of the two, you have these components, not three components of risk. Or these risk components, I guess, might be shorter. These risk components instead of components of risk. One or both of risk components.
Yeah. Substitution. I like the of risk. I I don't know why. It just reads better for me. Replacing higher risk hazards with lower risk hazard. Replacing a higher risk hazard
with a lower risk. Yep, singular. Yes.
With a lower risk hazard. Risk is comprised of likelihood and severity. The substitution would have to impact one or both components of risk. It's paramount to make sure that the replacement solution,
which is essentially what we discussed here, just not as harmful or worse.
Is not just as harmful. It is paramount to make sure that the. What if we just? Yeah, well, yeah, because we already said that. Yeah.
We already said. I was trying to say the same thing, but you used the better wording, so we can get rid of this.
Substitution is effective when workers are exposed to hazardous products. Hazardous products? It could be an application too. No, what we should do is, how about if we did this? What if we did this? What if we took a page out of this book?
I'll do the same thing.
Yeah. B. All right, so let's talk about this. Examples of hazard substitution include the following. Include but are not limited to. Include but are not limited to. Following. That's much better. All right, so substituting, there's some good examples. You had, what did you have? Where's yours at? Oh, it's up top.
I think it's on the other column on the other side. Yeah,
it went up top.
Side, sorry. I know, so two columns is confusing. It's like on the other side. So replacing a diesel engine with electric motors, I guess you get rid of the diesel, the chemical hazard. I guess diesel is chemical, right? Lead-free products and natural pesticides. I guess it's along the same lines. These are the examples I could find. I could look for more.
Let's think about it. I like the LED light replacement.
Yeah, I guess. It was electrical, so I think I included it in the table, but nothing stopping us from using it here.
Well, let's think about we want to relate it to. I think the point of what you were trying to do here was to relate it to something non-electrical that somebody would be. So what if we did this? What if we said, what is another? This is a substitution. So, how about? What about what came to my mind was replacing, like, if I know this is going to sound stupid, but if you're going to cut cheese, you could cut it with a knife, or you could buy a regular cheese cutter that has the wire thing. You've eliminated the hazard of using a knife and cuts by using a different method. I don't know if there's something like that we can think of.
So Tom, the one thing that jumps in my head, but I know it's electrical, maybe replacing all the equipment that is not, like metal enclosure was double insulated equipment, but this is electrical.
Yeah.
You're substituting them, right? Like equipment, because I always remember your example of shocking you and your cousins, I guess, when you were younger, using hey, use this drill and it just gets a shock, it gets big zap, before the double insulation was a thing, right?
Yeah. So what's another?
But I don't know what could be another example.
Non-electrical. So if you're using a knife, what about go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. As I say, what about cars? We can maybe think of the new technology, ABS, airbags. I know it's standard now, but there's something we can say that you're driving a car or a vehicle with something. But yeah, I think you have an example, so maybe go ahead. Just not driving.
So I'm wondering if, and you're using the correct tool for cutting cheese. I like that. See, I like the cheese. But it just seems cheesy to put it in the technical paper. But
I like
it would be using
too.
the proper tool. Using a proper wire puller designed for that rather than a come along. Yeah, but we want to keep it separate from electrical because that's the point.
Not electrical. Because you can do like the replacing the knob and tub, whatever, the old wiring method with the NMB, whatever, but it's still electrical. What is an example that's not? Can't think of anything.
Substitution. Example of substitution that's not electric. Proper wire puller. I like the if you could eliminate using a knife.
I will pull up this document. I might be able to find something. I'll just look through the Ultra document that I used. Could they add some other examples? Might find something else that I missed. Where is the document? Here, substitute. Hey, what about this? Replacing solvent-based paints with a water-based alternative.
Oh, okay. So this would be what? This would be, what's the hazard?
Chemical, right? Chemical. Replacing solvent-based paints.
Well, what does it
with
cause?
A water-based. I think with the solvent-based paints, it's something that lock to your lung, right? Like you inhale the chemical. I don't know. Here's another example. Using a larger granular form of a product instead of a fine powder to reduce dust generation.
Oh, what about, so chemical hazard substitution through using, what did you say, using water-based paint?
Water-based alternative to replace solvent-based paints, like paint, but I don't know what the water-based alternative is.
Paints. Okay, that's one good example. The other one I just had in my head, you mentioned, what was the example you just?
Oh, there was the dust one. Using a larger granular form.
Stop.
Okay.
Hold on. What if we said the other? Remember, there's another substitution where you can substitute sugar with
honey. or I don't know.
There's was it the you substitute sugar? You substitute. There's like in baking, you can substitute components, like say you make a bread that is oh my gosh, oh man,
I don't know about baking. We have to ask Bobby Joe.
I know.
Not my department.
You know, like if you were diabetic or whatever, there are
Robert's is saying sugar substitute, but I don't know what they're called.
Yeah.
And I can think
you know what? Here, I'm just going to capture it. Replacing sugar, granulated sugar, with a sugar substitute. To reduce whatever hazard.
Diabetes.
Got the diabetes. Replacing diesel engines with electric motors. That's still. Oh, how about?
So we have natural pesticides. I guess this could be a different example. It's chemical too, but.
Yeah. So I just cleaned out a wasp nest outside, and we had this discussion of, will the substance be harmful for the bush that I was spraying in? So using, we have to think about it, but what I'll do is I'll at least capture the concept, and then we'll have to go back and do some homework. using
work on it later, yeah.
natural pesticides instead of more hazardous pesticides. And one of those is, what was that stuff that you would put around the house that was very deep with DETE?
Oh, yeah.
Remember, it was really bad. It caused cancer.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, DD something, DDT.
DDT. Yeah,
DDT, right?
DDT. That caused cancer.
I guess I'd have to find the acronym online, but yeah, DDT. Right.
Yeah, we can look that up, but those are two good examples. The pesticide, or three, replacing something in the food. You know, another good example is flour with, that's Roundup pesticide. Well, I don't want to use Roundup as a pesticide. I think there was what was in the pesticide. I don't want to use brand names because Roundup, I think, is a brand name. Yeah. There's a component in a pesticide that caused cancer, and then a lot of the pesticides are now no longer using it. We could also talk about lead. You know, maybe instead of replacing lead-based materials with natural whatevers.
Yeah, so, well, you know, I had this lead-based example too in my examples, but I guess it's gone now. What did we say?
Yeah, but I don't think you completed it because you had generators.
So I said using lead-free products, but I didn't say replace them. Just use lead-free products.
Yeah.
Lead-free.
Yeah. Eliminate chemical burns. So we did that. Okay. Okay. There we go. Now we're substitute, so that's still substitution. Okay. That format.
So Tom, do you have a hard stop at 10 p.m.? Sorry, 10 a.m. or p.m. a.m.
Hold on, let me look. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to just do this and put it up at the top of this page so we have it in one spot. Engineering controls.
Then awareness, administrative controls, yep.
Paint. Just trying to get the formatting back.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy from this document into the master document I have. So hopefully I don't have an issue with the formatting because the other one is formatted properly, but at least you have the information captured somewhere.
Yeah, I think this is formatted properly, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, you don't have to kind of waste your time on doing it. You know, I can do it offline.
Yeah, but I just want to at least get it back to normal. All right, so let me look. Where's my schedule? Hold on. It's only 9:25. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it like half an hour.
Discuss follow up on MC Q&A. So I have 10:30. Oh, the dogs are barking. I've got a 10:30.
10:30? Oh, okay. So, I guess maybe I'll have to go for maybe 10 minutes. 10 to 10, and I'll be back. If we can go to 10:30, but we'll be gone for 10 minutes. So I guess you can just maybe, if you want to continue some work, I'll be right back. Just for 10 minutes.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to continue on. So you're leaving now? Okay. You're leaving now?
No. 10 to 10, around 10 to 10 for 10 minutes. Okay. And I'll be back. Yeah, I just want to make sure that, because I thought if you have to stop at 10, maybe we'll just call it off earlier. But if we can go to 10:30, I'll be back.
All right. That sounds good.
Perfect. All right. Cool. We have a plan.
All right. Mailman just came. That's what all the commotion was about. I didn't even hear him knock. All right. So we're doing engineering controls. That's for some reason. Italic. Should not be italic.
Oh yeah, it did the whole, because you did paint, so it painted all italic. Right.
All right, so engineering controls, removing hazards at the source before coming in contact with workers. In other words, the worker is isolated from the hazard. Oh, okay, so so engineering controls would be, for example, let me think.
Power protection stuff. Maybe the barriers, whatever.
Removing hazards at the source. I don't agree with that. Hopefully I have. Track changes aren't good. Removing hazards at the source. You're not, I mean, if you're removing the hazard at the source, then you are eliminating because you removed the hazard. You are guarding. You are protecting from the hazard. You're not removing the hazard. The hazard's there, right? You're just engineering controls around the hazard.
So yeah, I think maybe I did not word it properly. What about reducing exposure instead of removing?
Okay, so reducing exposure to hazards. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this was my bad wording because I'm just looking through the OSHA documents that I'm using. Yeah, this is not removing, was just my bad wording. It wasn't theirs.
Reducing exposure to hazards.
Before coming, I guess you don't need the source. Before coming in contact with the worker, right? Or
avoiding contact, right? So it's not before.
Yeah, not before.
Exposure, avoiding contact with exposure with workers. Reducing how about this? I mean, we're focusing on contact. Reducing exposure of the hazard to the workers. To workers, yeah. So you're reducing exposure of the hazard to workers. Is it just workers, or could it be anybody? It's just yeah, so it's just reducing exposure of the hazard. And a good example would be double insulated. That would be the example for that, because now you still have 120 volts there, but you are adding layers of insulation and separation, and you're controlling to reduce the exposure of the hazard.
And I have some examples. You have the machine guards, interlocks, guardrails, hoists, ventilation. They're all just reducing the exposure somehow.
Reducing exposure of that. Now, how do we describe an engineering control? So so it is.
So what about
the hazard that in this case? The hazard exists, right? So we know it's still there and is not eliminated.
Or substituted.
Or substituted. Right? Yep, or substituted. But rather, exposure to the hazard is controlled through design decisions and implementation is either it's controlled or eliminated. So you are eliminating the exposure to the hazard.
So I think Robert has a good point. It's reducing exposure to the hazard, not of the hazard. Or you can say reducing exposure of workers to the hazard. You want to include workers or not? Because you can say reducing exposure to the hazard or exposure of workers.
Reducing exposure of personnel
Personnel. It's even better. To the hazard.
Right? To the hazard.
Perfect.
In this case, the hazard exists and is not eliminated or substituted, but rather exposure to the hazard is controlled and or eliminated through design decisions and implementation.
Yeah. Design decision. I like that one. This is OCHA should copy this definition from us because their definition is lacking.
I agree. In other words,
yeah, this is good.
The worker, in other words, personnel are isolated from personnel.
You know, I'm gonna go in and change all workers because I think I used worker there for location, so I use personnel. It's more generic than workers.
But a worker depends on the context, because if you're describing something that is being conducted, the reason I used personnel because it doesn't have to just be an electrical worker, but if you're describing if we're in the paper describing something that is where work is being done, then it would make sense. So we just have to be careful of the scrub. That's all.
Like the next section, awareness. For example, I know I'm jumping ahead, but using awareness, empowering workers.
I want to finish. Let's just finish engineering controllers. So, using machine guards, interlocks. Okay, so how about this? Why don't we follow suit? Yeah.
Same format.
Yep. Control C.
I like consistency. But this is consistent.
Yeah, you and me both.
Being consistent.
Examples of engineering controls include but are not limited to the following. Okay. So machine guards, interlocks, guardrails. So the hazard, I like the guardrail. Or adding handrails to stairs. Adding handrails, you're not adding handrails to balconies. To a balcony. Handing handrails to a balcony.
So it says here, guardrails, using guardrails to prevent a fall. So however you want to word it.
Yeah, so adding handrails to a balcony adds a barrier to personnel standing on the balcony, preventing a fall. The hazard of height and fall are still there, but a barrier is put in place to reduce the likelihood of someone walking off the edge.
So Tom, just a question. Do you want to use balcony specifically or make it more generic?
It's because it's one example. If we don't want to make it electrical in nature, so I went to be specific so that people can picture that in their mind. That's the only reason I did that. Adding handrails to a balcony adds a barrier to personnel standing on the balcony to preventing a fall. Or not preventing, reducing the likelihood of a fall, because you could always jump over a handrail, right?
Yeah.
And I don't need this. The hazard of height and a fall are still there.
So is the hazard height or fall, or both? Because it's like height and fall. I think it's like just fall hazard, trip and fall, maybe, to be consistent with what we did before.
How about the hazard of falling from a height?
Yeah,
falling from a high location are still there.
So is still there, right? Not R is there.
I couldn't hear you.
The hazard is instead of R, right? Because now it's fall from a high location is still there.
The hazard of fall from a high location is still there, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, instead of an R, right.
Handrails are not on balconies. Those are guardrails. Handrails are on stairs. He's right. Adding
yeah. I was going to say, I was going to ask you, do you want to use handrails or guardrails? Because the issue was guardrails.
Guardrails.
Right.
G. Adding guardrails to a balcony adds a barrier to personnel standing on the balcony, reducing likelihood of fall. I like that. So that was guardrails.
You know, and the thing is, yeah, this is really good. And the thing is, to your point, and to Edward, to Robert's point, guardrails and handrails are both examples. Like you prevent people from falling off stairs, right? So even handrails applies, but maybe not to the balcony.
Hoists. Ventilation. Ventilation? Ventilation. Engine. Oh.
Yeah, it's using local exhaust or general dilution ventilation to remove or reduce airborne products. This is how ventilation is described.
Yeah. I like the balcony end because it's to your point. If you're not electrical, that's a good tie. Ventilation seems like a longer paragraph. Machine guards is good, right? So I like the machine guards. So what would be a good example of that? Oh, how about on a fan? You know, on a fan you have a cage around a fan. I like that. A cage around a fan.
You know, I wish I could share this document with you because it's so good and it has so many examples.
Cage. I like to create my own examples because if we use somebody else's, then we're just, you know.
I know, just to get you to think about it. So
I like it. Do you like this one? Do you like this one? A cage around a fan? Help me with the words.
A cage around a fan?
Yeah. Designed into a product. So a cage around a fan prevents fingers from touching moving blades.
Yeah. Is it like intrusion? I guess prevent intrusion.
A cage around a fan prevents intrusion of fingers keeping them away from hazardous
blades, from
moving
touching
blades.
Blades. Right.
The fan blade hazard is still there, but the barrier B is still there. I'm just going to end with that because I ended the previous one is still there. The hazard,
just for consistency. Yep.
The hazardous moving fan blades are still there.
Is R or is? Because it's one hazard, right? The hazard of.
That's blades.
The hazard
is. Hazardous moving fan blades are still there. The hazard, maybe if I say the hazard of moving fan blades is still there.
Still there. Yeah. Right.
I liked Robert mentioned water filters.
And he mentioned the harness as well. Just added something about fall harness.
Oh,
harness and lanyard to prevent fall from roof.
Fall protection, fall harness. Fall harness. The implementing a fall harness for personnel working at heights is
trip and fall hazard is still there, but
prevents fall. The hazard.
The hazard of tripping and falling is still there.
Still there. In high places. is still there. Implementing a fall harness for personnel working at heights prevents a fall. The hazard of the fall from a high place is, a high location, is still there. You haven't removed the hazard, you have just implemented.
Reduce the likelihood.
What about the harness and lanyard preventing the fall? Yes. So I think 3 examples are good enough, right?
Enough, yeah. So I guess we don't need the hoist or guards, because the hoist was the example of, using a hoist instead of lifting something.
Yeah.
Good.
I like it.
This will be good.
Like it. And they're not electrical, to your point. We're drawing the correlation. Awareness. Empowering workers. Empowering personnel. Wait, hold on.
This would be probably workers. Or maybe awareness is workers, personnel. Yeah, could be personnel too. If someone is on a job site, but not working, but needs to know that this is high voltage, don't touch or something,
Yeah, but empowering, providing appropriate knowledge. So empowering workers. Awareness is not empowering workers. You empowering them?
I came up with empowering because of knowledge. So I don't know what's a better word than empowering. This is just my wording, so you can change it. I wanted to be consistent with one word, like reducing, substitute, replacing, you know what I mean? So I couldn't find anything for awareness. So I came up with empowering, but
awareness could be a better word. So what I thought of awareness, okay, let's start the fundamental discussion. Is awareness education?
I did empowering because it's knowledge. This is what I thought. Knowledge, you're giving them knowledge, so you're empowering them to make decisions.
So is awareness education, or is it signage?
Training is awareness, right? Training is awareness. Signage is awareness, I think.
Warning signs is also awareness. So it is, awareness can come, awareness can come in various forms, including education of hazards and signage, warning of hazards.
Sure. But okay. I guess to be consistent with what we did previously, right, we need to have one sentence to describe it. And this is what I was trying to do with empowering. So what you added could come next, the first sentence. And that's something similar. The knowledge can be in the form of procedure, training, and warnings. Very similar to what you said.
So really, awareness is awareness of the hazards. Awareness, what do you call it? Awareness is awareness is.
What about
recognition? Recognition of the hazard.
What about, because I think it applies to the workers. What about informing the worker?
But again, you're going to the action, not the definition of what awareness is. Awareness is being aware of the hazards. We could do that by informing people. We can do that by teaching people. We can do that by putting signage. The bottom line is awareness is recognition of the hazards that exist. Right? So if I go on if you walk into my house and I have a hole in the floor that you could fall through, or if I have low hanging ceilings that you could hit your head on, the hazards are there, and you just have to be able to recognize that hazards exist. And how I do that, I may provide a training program for you before you walk into the house and say, look, here are fall hazards, here are head bumping hazards, here are electrical hazards, and I could teach you about them And then also I could put signs. I could put signs that the ceiling is low or the walkway is low, that there's a hole there. I can put guards around there and raise your awareness that the hazard is there. I'm not removing the hazard, but I'm helping you recognize that a hazard exists.
So I'm okay with what you say. I would just suggest or recommend using recognizing the hazard to be consistent, because we said replacing, developing, everything was like reducing. So maybe recognizing the hazard, just to be consistent. That exists maybe, and then by providing appropriate knowledge.
Well, that's the next sentence. That's how you get it done, right? So awareness is it doesn't make up here. It made sense to say reducing exposure of personnel to the hazard, recognizing hazards that exist. I guess that's it.
And in the workplace,
awareness of hazards can come in various forms, including education of hazards and signage, warning of hazards.
So, Tom, you want to go back to the first sentence? Maybe you want to say hazards that exist in the workplace, just to make the sentence more complete.
Is it only focused on workplace? So if it's not a workplace, put it this way: say it's a road. I mean, our examples were not like a guardrail on a balcony. That's not a workplace, right? I mean, hazards can exist anywhere, so it's not just the workplace. Recognizing that hazards exist
in the surrounding environment, or I just feel it's too short. I'm trying to complete the sentence. I just don't know what to say. That exist in the surroundings.
At a location.
If you see, maybe Robert has a good idea. Calling out some convenience from exist. Some.
I don't know that. I don't need anything more to this sentence for me. I mean, it's a complete sentence. Recognizing hazards that exist. It can be on a job site. It can be in a room.
Yeah, so Robert is saying drawing attention to hazards. Calling out, drawing attention to hazards. I guess recognizing is similar.
Yeah.
Drawing attention to hazards that exist. I think maybe drawing attention makes more sense than recognizing, because who's recognizing it? We're just trying to draw people's attention. Thank you, Robert. To hazards that exist. Yep.
Drawing attention. So that would mean, I don't know. I don't know if I like that either.
I don't know. I struggle with awareness.
Because awareness is awareness of hazards.
So you're making people aware
of what of hazards, yeah.
Yeah. So making them aware.
I can make you aware of what a shock hazard is. That doesn't mean it exists. I'm making you aware that a shock hazard exists. I'm explaining to you, I'm teaching you what are shock hazards. Then you have the ability to recognize hazards wherever you are, right? So
but isn't this the essence of training, Tom? Like, you let people know, make them aware of the hazard, right?
Exactly.
Sign. There's a sign, hey, high voltage or chemical, whatever. Yeah. So I can't think of the word. I struggled and I came up with empowering, but I guess we need the wordsmith it. Drawing attention, making people aware, making personnel aware of the hazard that exists. I don't know, recognizing.
How about we say increasing the ability to recognize hazards that exist.
I guess the ability of personnel, right? Should you add personnel? Ability of people? Yes, personnel. Yep. Perfect.
Increasing the ability of personnel to recognize hazards that exist.
So Tom, I have to run for 10 minutes. Do you want me to keep my camera on or switch it off, or maybe you
can switch it off.
Feed?
I'll
okay, switch off. Okay, I will do that. I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Teach. There we go. All right. So awareness, increasing. Thank you, Robert. Increasing attention to, increasing the ability. So Robert, I'm thinking that the attention to. Increasing the ability of personnel to recognize hazards that exist. Awareness of hazards can come in various forms, including education of hazards, education, and signage, Right. So to your point, increasing the attention to and drawing attention to. I can put signage, and that draws attention to the fact that there's a hazard there. Intentional. Yeah, but the workers, by providing them with the appropriate knowledge to perform their work. Nope, I'm not going to buy that. This knowledge can be in the form awareness, education, and signage. In addition, so awareness. This knowledge can be in the form of procedures, training. Procedures is administrative. It's training and warning signs, which I already did that. I already set that up above. Awareness. Since awareness, control, awareness, say awareness of hazards and the ability to recognize hazards does not remove nor reduce the hazards that are present. Hence, the reason it is ranked low on the hierarchy of risk controls. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to say examples. Control C, Control V. Examples of awareness controls include, but are not limited to, the following. Consciousness of maybe? Robert, that's a good one. Examples of awareness controls include, but are not limited to, the following. How about from a real world, how about driving a vehicle? Driver's education. Driver's education. Educating new drivers on fundamentals of driving a vehicle, which may include special vehicles, does not remove the hazard, but rather creates a better driver. I don't know. Signage, alarms. Yes, signage. So how about signage? Signage. Ooh. How about like a shark-infested water? So driver's education is one of them. Signage, alarms, instructions of actions to not touch. Yeah, but I'm looking for an example, Robert. I'm looking for an example of signs. Something that we see. I can think about vehicles. Vehicles are one, like stop signs, but that would be an intersection. Signs for merging. How about no swimming? No swimming signs. Oh yeah, watch your step. No swimming signs can make personnel aware that waters are dangerous and swimming is not permitted. This does not remove the hazards associated with the water are still there. Right, fundamentals. No swimming signs. You said, swimming is prohibited. Where the waters are dangerous and swimming is prohibited. Prohibited. The hazards associated with water are still there. With the water body. I almost said water bidet are still there. No swimming signs. You had watch your step. I like that. Watch your step. Signage. Signage regarding steps. Or signage regarding steps. Or uneven pavement. Make walkers aware unformatted text. There we go. Signage regarding steps or uneven pavement. Make walkers aware of an existing hazard. To ensure care is taken when walking. The hazard of the steps or uneven pavement still exist. I like it. Danger, bridge out. Run, Will Robinson. Run, Will Robinson. All right. Well, we got that into administrative controls. Developing work policies. Developing work policies and procedures to ensure work is done in a manner that minimizes risks. Administrative controls. Developing work policies and procedures to ensure work is done in a manner that minimizes risks. I like that. That's perfect. In other words, the way people work is changed to lower the severity of exposure. In other words, administrative controls, I'll just say administrative controls influence the way people work, reducing risk. Primarily through controlling likelihood. not controlling, primarily through likelihood. It's not the severity. So developing work policies and procedures to ensure work is done in a manner that minimizes risks. Do not do that or else. Administrative controls influence the way people work, reducing risk primarily through self-awareness is a part of that. Similar to awareness, this control, for example, scheduling. Let's do this. Examples include the following, but are not limited to Control C, Control V. Driver education. Restart. There we go. What about self-awareness? I'm not sure about that one. Developing work policies and procedures to ensure work is performed in a manner that minimizes risks. Administrative controls influence the way people work, reducing risk primarily through managing likelihood. Because what you're not going to do now, through managing likelihood and severity. And the reason I added severity was because you may have your electrical workers turn things on like an energy reduction maintenance switch, or have them use extension cords that have GFCI protection built in, right? Cord sets, etc. All right. And a good example, for example, scheduling, okay. Scheduling shorter work hours, contaminated areas, severity. Oh, Nehad's back. Hold on, Nehad. For some reason, you're muted. Hold on. All right, there you go. I can hear you now.
Okay, you're perfect, yeah, because I said I'm back and then turned on my camera. Guess I'm glad that I did. Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
I see you finished awareness, which is good.
Yeah, let me hold on 1 second.
No, take your time. Take your time. It's good.
V. Okay, I'll just go up and show you what I did on awareness. Increasing the ability of personnel to recognize hazards that exist. Awareness of hazards can come in various forms, including education and signage. Awareness of hazards and the ability to recognize hazards does not remove nor reduce the hazards that are present. Hence, the reason it is ranked low on the hierarchy of risk controls. Examples of awareness controls include, but are not limited to, the following: driver's education, educating new drivers on fundamentals of driving vehicles, which may include special vehicles, does not remove the hazard, but rather creates a better driver. No swimming signs can make personnel aware that waters are dangerous and swimming is prohibited.
But it doesn't stop them from getting in the water.
Associated with the water body are still there. You know what? Prohibited. I like that, but does not stop them
from getting in the water. From swimming or getting in the water. Right.
The water.
And I guess this applies to awareness, because you make you aware. It doesn't mean that, like, I'm thinking driving education, I'm thinking the road signage, right? Because we all had to do the sign tests, right? The written test for signs. You can still speed, even if it says high, this is the speed limit, or you can just go through a red light. It doesn't stop you from doing it. Doesn't prevent you from doing it, right?
Educating new drivers on road signs.
Right.
I like that. Road signs and how to respond when respond to these signs when driving.
But again, it doesn't stop them from breaking the rules. Yeah, the law.
Man, I'm losing my train of thought. Hold on. Give me words. I lost mine. Go ahead.
Driving doesn't stop drivers from breaking the law or not respecting these signs, right?
From violating.
Violating, yeah. That's better, even better word.
Educating new drivers on road signs and how to respond to these signs when driving does not prevent drivers from ignoring the signs.
Ignoring.
The hazards exist regardless of the signs.
Here's the thing. Do we need driver education at the beginning? I don't think we need it. It's just like educating no drivers, just like what you did with no swim signs can make. You know what I mean?
I lost my earpiece. Go ahead. What was that again?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just going to say, do we need driver education at the beginning of the sentence? Maybe we should, to be consistent, start with educating no drivers without driver education, right? Just to follow the same approach.
Signage regarding education. So this is education. This one is signage, and this is signage. So this is no swimming signs. Okay, signage regarding steps. I don't know if I like the third one. Maybe.
So Tom, what about this? I have an example because I always think of there are three things that are included in awareness, signage, which we did, education. What about procedures? Providing someone with procedures to do something, remember, they can still stop it.
And the reason I think that's not right is because procedures are administrative controls. Following a procedure, implementing a procedure is an administrative control, not awareness.
Yeah, we're in awareness, right?
Yeah, we're in awareness. So I think in awareness you have education and you have signs. How about this? How about this? How about instructions on how to use appliances? Instructions on how to use appliances.
Like manuals?
Makes personnel or educates personnel on proper use of the equipment, to avoid harm. This does not prevent a person from ignoring the instructions.
You want to say instructions or manuals? Maybe manuals? Product manuals?
Instructions, product manuals. Manuals. Product manuals. I like product manuals. Product manuals. Educate
I guess you can just go educate
personnel on how to use appliances. Product manuals for appliances. Educate on how to use them, how to properly use the appliance to avoid harm. This does not prevent a person from ignoring the provided information
or the proper usage of the equipment.
Does not prevent a person from ignoring the provided information. The hazards associated with the appliance are still there, still exist.
So I like this, but I have one question when you're done.
Go ahead.
Okay, so you said product manuals for appliances, and I'm thinking, aren't we limiting it to appliances? It could be product manuals for breakers, for relays, for anything, right? Why appliances specifically? Could be product manuals for anything, right?
The reason I limited it is because we're giving a specific example. So if I could relate it to an appliance, in fact, I was going to put a blender, right? Because if you relate it to something very specific, the goal here is not to be just train in general. The goal here is to provide specific examples. One was swimming signs. The other was a driver's education. This one, I was going to navigate it straight to a blender because you could really hurt your fingers in a blender if you don't use it correctly. That's why I wanted to be specific. Yes, product manuals in general, educating not just drivers on a road. It could be anybody who is in any type of moving vehicle. It could be a toy car or whatever. But we wanted to be specific. That's the only reason. Product manuals for appliances educate on how to properly use the appliance to avoid harm. This does not prevent a person from ignoring the provided information. The hazards associated with the appliance still exist.
I like it. I like it.
Then we get to administrative controls. Developing work policies and procedures to ensure work is performed in a manner that minimizes risks. Administrative controls influence the way people work, reducing risk, primarily managing likelihood and severity. Not primarily. Managing likelihood and severity. Similar to awareness, this control is ranked low because it only reduces, it doesn't just reduce risk severity. It could reduce likelihood too. Similar to risk awareness, this control is ranked low because it does not remove the hazard.
Okay. Yeah.
It does not remove the hazard, but acts to influence personnel
behaviors.
To make behaviors. IOR, behavior. Personnel behavior. For example, take that out. Examples of awareness controls include, but not limited to, the following. Scheduling shorter work hours in contaminated. Shorter work hours. Not sure. I'm trying to dismiss. I got a call in 15 minutes. 10:30. Examples of awareness: scheduling shorter work hours in contaminated areas. Limit the worker's exposure to the hazards. Exposure to hazards. Exposure to hazards, but does not eliminate the hazard.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's another example. I don't know if you like it or not, but it talks about preventive maintenance.
Yeah, how about this? How about preventive maintenance on a vehicle? Reduce preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance on a vehicle at scheduled intervals.
Yep.
Can decrease
reduce
the likelihood of failure of brakes or other controls.
Yeah, other components. Yeah.
The hazards maintenance may not be performed. Performing maintenance, so that's the issue is, so the first one was scheduling shorter work hours. The hazards are still there. It doesn't eliminate the hazard.
Yeah,
but it doesn't actually control. So what did we say up above? Remember we said this does not prevent a person from ignoring. This does not prevent a person from ignoring.
From working extra hours, or right?
Preventative maintenance on a vehicle at scheduled intervals can decrease the likelihood of failure of brakes or other controls, but can be ignored, right?
Yeah, there's no guarantee that the individual would perform preventive maintenance at the scheduled intervals.
No guarantee.
That the owner of the vehicle, would perform them as scheduled. Or as needed.
As specified.
Yeah, required scheduled. Yep. Tom, should we start the sentence by saying performing preventive maintenance instead of preventive maintenance? Performing preventive maintenance on a vehicle? No guarantee that the owner of the vehicle will perform maintenance as specified, as required. Specified.
So scheduling shorter work hours in contaminated areas to limits can limit the worker's exposure to hazards.
So there are two examples, but they're electrical. Maybe it's not electrical. Restricting access to a work area. Restricting access to a work area. Job rotation.
That's like barriers restricting access, right? What about procedures, like work procedures, right? So we could say instructions, providing instructions on how work is to be performed. What I'm thinking of is, like, you know, you buy a bicycle and you've got to put it together. So there's instructions on how to assemble it, right? And 9 times out of 10, we end up with extra screws because why? We didn't follow the instructions. So,
but isn't this awareness? Because this is, I'm sorry, but this is very similar to the manual example that we just used. And I know this is the gray area between awareness and administrative controls. I get it, but well, I guess we have to be careful because this is I think this sounds to me that's very similar to the manual example.
Providing procedures to be followed when work is performed is meant to control the process to reduce risk, but procedures may be ignored, yet the hazard are still present. So say lockout tagout procedure. It's a good example. I can have a procedure in place that says when you need to establish an electrically safe work condition, these are all the steps. And you got to follow these steps. You got to identify stored energy and release stored energy, do all these steps. If you don't follow that procedure, then you have not implemented and established an electrically safe work condition. So that's an electrical example, but it's a procedure that is in place and is expected to be followed. But if you don't follow it, then
so here's another example. I don't know if we don't have to use it, but I'm just thinking, any place you go, even at restaurants, everywhere, they have areas that say employee only, right? So I guess this is part of their administrative control. They're restricting access.
That's awareness.
Restricting access. Yeah.
And I did that. I said no swimming signs, or we could say employee only signs. You could say, yep.
I like swimming. Swimming is better.
And then you have
and this is part of my struggle. I've always thought that administrative controls and awareness are very similar. They overlap, and this is something I would like to highlight when we get to the discussion, that in many areas feels like, I think the health and safety, even other countries, I believe I came across documents from England and Australia, they have 5 steps. They combine awareness and administrative controls. There's one step. It's called administrative control, no awareness. And if you scroll down, this is one of the pictures I have. I kept it for that reason. They only have 5 instead of 6. Because I've always thought that there's just very, very difficult to, the third one, administrative controls. It changed to the way that people work, which I guess nice description, just changes to how people work, how people do things.
Yeah, they lump 2 things into one.
Yeah, they lump them together. Yeah, and honestly, it's clear because awareness admin controls are very, very close in my mind. At least I feel they're very similar. Always confuse them.
Yeah.
Because I can argue that yes, training is awareness, obviously, but someone can say it's admin control because as an employee, you don't voluntarily get trained. Your employer tells you that you need this training. So, and part of it is still, admin control.
But that's how they separate it, right? So training is awareness, but administrative controls is requiring your employees to be trained. So they're 2 separate actions. One is awareness driven, and the other is the administrative. So I think what they're trying to do is draw attention to the fact that you can say we need to be trained, but if you don't have any controls in place that make sure all of your people are trained, then you really don't have training.
No, I get the part, but I still think they're too close, right? Like, and it's not just me. Obviously, a lot of people out there are lumping them together for a reason, obviously, But I guess we have to follow the structure because this is 7E. So I'm not saying we should, but it's I've always struggled with the awareness and admin control.
And the last one is PPE, wearing clothing and other accessories.
Yeah, better than devices. Yeah.
To protect workers from workplace hazards. Just how about from hazards?
Yeah. So I guess we can say personnel, right? Because it doesn't only apply to workers. You can be visiting a place and they make you wear eye protection, goggles or whatever, right? Yeah, personnel is better.
You provide adequate protection against hazards if worn and used correctly. It's true. The personnel must be vigilant in following proper procedures and I'll leave that there. Respirators, gloves, examples of PPE include, and I'm going to just leave that like that. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I guess, and I'll change the sentence instead of examples. I'll just say, limited, include, but not limited to. I'll copy the same sentence from above. just to save time. I'll fix that. But
yeah, might as well. It's easy to copy. Bills of PPE. But not limited to the following. Respirators, blah, 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 blah. When selecting a risk control method, it should be noted that the 3 most effective risk controls address the risk likelihood, while the least 3 effective controls, ooh, I don't know about that.
I struggled with this. This is me, and I want to discuss this with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Agree? No, I don't agree with that. Because if I do controls, if I do like education, I might reduce likelihood. I don't reduce severity by educating you. If I educate you that if you touch that 120 volt circuit, you're going to be electrocuted, 30 amps are going to flow through your body, and I educated you, but you touch it anyway, I haven't reduced severity.
I was thinking of PPE, because PPE would reduce severity, or burn or something. But yeah.
When selecting I would say what you lose. Okay, so once elimination, substitution, engineering controls address the risk, rely less on, and Robert's been saying it multiple times, human error. Rely less on human behavior and reduce human error. So when you think about if I am going to try to teach you and make you aware, you could still be aware of hazards, but you can still be fallible and make a mistake and go, oh, geez, I forgot. That's energized, right? You can forget things, even though you're very well aware, you can have an accident. But engineering controls and eliminations of the hazard and substitution basically take the human behavior and the human error out of the picture because you've removed it in design. Risk control methods are not mutually exclusive, and combination of controls is usually the most effective in controlling a single hazard. Risk control methods are not mutually exclusive, and a combination of controls is usually the most. Yes, I get it now. Yep.
So I'm reading this, Tom. Maybe you can get rid of the first sentence. I guess it's not needed. I was just trying to describe the difference between the first 3 and the last 3. But I guess I didn't do a good job. So we can maybe, if you want, you can get rid of the first sentence and start with risk control methods are not mutually exclusive. I just want to emphasize that you don't use one method and then you're happy. You usually have to use more than one method.
But I like that first sentence because I think it speaks volumes in that when you eliminate a hazard, you take human error out of it.
My sentence. Sorry, I was looking at my sentence, not the one that you have.
Yeah, so I think it does. I like where you went with it, and I think it speaks a lot of volumes because it brings in the stuff that Robert has been saying, and it's that whole human behavior and human error. You take all of that out. You're controlling the situation. Oh, it's 10:30. I got to jump on another call.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's time to go.
Yep, time to go. I've got to jump on a call, and then I got to go to the doctor's office.
Yeah, good luck with the doctor, Tom. And hopefully, keep me posted what happens with the doctor.
It's I'm
not sure when you're available next. I know you're not available tomorrow, so...
Yeah, I'll try to schedule something for us, okay?
Sounds good. Okay.
All right, brother.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care. Thanks. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Take care, everybody.